I think projection is one of the greatest magic tricks in the world, and I'm in awe of it. Every time I'm in the booth, I'm just in awe that this piece of material traveling through the projector, the exact precision of how it's supposed to be timed between a shutter and a light and an intermittent and some gears and a sound head, and I'm in awe of it every time I'm up there.
It really is like a performance, and there's like a lot of stuff that people aren't seeing you do as you're working, but you have like a rhythm, and and then at the end of the night you're like, whew, and you're like how much did I get right? How many mistakes did I make? You have your kind of tally, but yeah, so it's like a nice, it's like performance without being watched, which I love that. That's fun.
I've been in bands, I've played to audiences, people who know who you are on the stage, and I feel more of a sense of intimidation in the projection booth than I think I ever did on a stage, because it feels as if the success of the show really is on your shoulders.
Once you start a show, there's really no turning back. And so I really love that sort of adrenaline rush of running a 35 print through a projector and getting ready for a changeover.
I think I was intimidated by big reels of film and winding them at first. I felt like it had a mind of its own, and I couldn't take control of it.
I don't know, it's like cooking a great meal or something where you improve your technique for chopping or for sautéing or something. You gradually improve every time, and you learn from your past mistakes. And I think that's a benefit of having done it for a while. You have had a lot of chances to learn what to do and what not to do.
Archival film projection as a profession, this is like being in the major leagues of projection. And the Nitrate Picture Show is the all-star game. Everything we're showing is intensely unique. There's no other chance you're going to see this again. This is your one opportunity. And the stakes are about as high as they can possibly get.
You can sort of imagine yourself experiencing it the way that the audience experienced that same exact print decades ago, maybe a century ago. And you can just sort of imagine yourself there in that theater watching the same thing. So I think that the Nitrate Picture Show, it creates a really unique experience in that way.
There's a connection to the past when you're exhibiting these prints that is really extraordinary. I had the privilege of projecting a newsreel from 1918 during the 2018 festival. And it really struck me how I was using the exact same material that another projectionist had used exactly 100 years ago. Newsreels themselves are not unique. We have them donated to the museum on a monthly basis. But this was the exact same material, somehow still existing 100 years later. And the fact that it was in any way projectable is extraordinary because it was never intended to be used again.
I view it as like an aesthetic time capsule. We're sharing ideally close to exactly how these things were seen. Many of the ways that we've experienced these films in the past may have been through, in almost every case, a copy of a copy or a digital copy of that copy. As I said, just that direct access to how this object is or would have been seen is really, really, I think, foundational to the festival. This is how the film looked. And there's, in some cases, no way to change that. Even with some scratches or some dirt, it remains the same.
There's a concept of aura, the feeling, the sensation that you have when you experience art up close. And when you feel as if you are connecting to the artist that created the work that you are looking at, there's such a slight degree of separation between you and the origin.
Nitrate film, safety film, deteriorates like pretty easily. If you keep film in poor conditions, it will deteriorate. It'll decompose. We have lost a countless amount of cinema, since the dawn of it, which is quite sad. Just the fact that these prints are in projectable condition speaks to how much work archivists have put into saving them over the years. And I think that the festival is a celebration of that.
And some of the nitrate prints that we show are shrinking, and they're not going to stop shrinking. And once it gets to a certain point, we're not going to be able to screen it on film stock anymore. So some of these films may be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Part of the Nitrate Picture Show that is really unique is the fact that it recognizes the projectionist, whereas in a typical setting, a projectionist never wants to be known. If the audience knows the projectionist's name that night, it's probably because they made a terrible mistake. It's one of those fields like a referee or something where you hope you can blend into the background and no one notices any mistakes that you've ever made. The Nitrate Picture Show is the first venue that I've ever seen that brings the projectionists on stage and acknowledges the work they do.
And we're very, very fortunate here, I think, the fact that we can still project film and nitrate film, and that is a treasure for our community. And when we do the Nitrate Picture Show, that recognition just comes from all over the world. It's really impressive.
Nitrate was new to me when I came here. It was old, but it was new to me. I think we're all of us that are in that booth, we're on nitrate, appreciate just how flammable that stuff is. How flammable is nitrate? Well, let's say you took an old reel of film and you set it on fire and you threw it into the lake, it would still burn. And you say, well, why is that? It's because it produces its own oxygen as it burns. So that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is that not only is it flammable, but if you stay in the booth while it's burning, it's also toxic. The fumes from it are toxic.
You hear a lot about it, and then it's whether it's dangerous or scary, and probably the first time that you open a can, you are scared, or you see the label in bright red letters like nitrate, flammable. But being able to, as a student, wind through film at, say, like the Louis B. Mayer Conservation Center or here at FPS, slowly on a bench, and you are able to incrementally grow confidence with it. It isn't just going to explode in your hand.
From a projectionist perspective, I can't imagine being one of those early projectionists in the booth, poorly ventilated, carbon arcs, burning flames behind nitrate film. So of course there were fires, there were deaths, and I was always very curious what went through someone's mind when they decided that they wanted to become involved with a field like that.
I do think nitrate film looks different when projected, especially in black and white. However, I can't really describe why. It's just a certain quality, and it's beautiful. I can't deny it. It's really gorgeous, and there's something different about it. The blacks are very black. It just looks very beautiful. It sparkles on screen. It's a certain quality that I can't quite describe, but I know it when I see it.
So we can't keep a whole lot of nitrate here within the city limits or in the building. So we keep what we're going to inspect in the nitrate holding room, which we have here. There's a secret code to get in. Key, light, chili. Now we're on to reel 3. And we're going to give this a good look through and make sure it's projectable and can safely pass through the projector without any harm to the people in the booth, the film itself, or the projector.
Yeah, I think that film inspection informs film projection, and film projection informs film inspection. By doing one, you learn what the needs are in the other. At the end of the day, I think that the biggest thing for us is, will projecting this print leave it vulnerable to damage? You know, how confident are we that we can securely project a print?
Every single inch of film should pass through your hand before it passes through the projector. That's true of any film object in 2024. A print to pass through the projectors must be 100% repaired. Any question of damage must be heavily considered. So it's taken very seriously. But when you're preparing an archival print for inspection, there's just a lot more to look out for. It's like maybe like driving an old car or something. You know, you might need to double check that your brake lines are good and that your lug nuts are tight or whatever. That's where a lot of this damage has taken place, where someone's not done their due diligence of inspection, and then you hit a pothole in the road and your wheel flies off.
A lot of things that you can discern from looking at a print before even putting it onto a projector. You can see how scratched a print is in ways that indicate that it has been projected previously. You can get an idea for the conditions that a print may have been stored in based on the shrinkage and the warpage, and how outside of the original physical shape of the print is it now.
As a film print gets older and we'll say more loved over time, these prints get damaged. Perforations will break. Films will get scratched. There will be edge damage. Maybe a splice will come apart. There's a lot of damage that a film can undergo over time, and as it's been projected more and more and more over the years. At the Dryden especially, we're very cautious when we do an inspection. We are meticulous. We go through every print and make sure that every little tear is repaired. So it's really dependent on doing a proper inspection to make sure that we treat each print with the proper respect that it deserves, and also with the knowledge that a certain tear could be the tear that damages the print beyond repair.
Some of the variables that you might measure when you look at a safety print are sort of just cranked to 11 with a nitrate print. The range of the shrinkage that I've seen in inspecting nitrate prints has been so much wider than anything I had ever experienced with safety prints. The way that the film prints can be warped, the spoking and the angles in the print from the way that they've been stored, or the way that they were stored before being put securely into an archival setting. It seems like the possibilities are endless with a nitrate print by virtue of how long it has existed in the world and what it has seen along the way.
So shrinkage is bad for projection because those little perforations, as the film shrinks, start getting closer and closer together, so they may not line up with the sprocket wheel in the projector. And once that happens, things start tearing through the perfs, and so that's not what we want. So shrinkage is a serious concern in terms of the film's safety. So our tolerance for shrinkage is, the max is at 1%, although we have kind of eked up a little bit with that and tested like maybe 1.3, 1.4% shrinkage. And in that case, if there's questionable concern about will this film make it through the projector, we'll run it through the projector with the lamp off. We'll just let it play through the projector without the lamp on, and if it survives that, then okay, we're a little more confident that the film's not going to break apart in the projector.
When I inspect a safety print, I'm surprised when I see shrinkage higher than, for example, 0.5%. If something is really old, a safety print from the 50s, maybe it gets up into 0.7 to 0.8% range. But with nitrate prints, because they've seen so many different environmental conditions, the shrinkage can be much greater.
There's a much higher risk with shrinkage. It's often accompanied with higher fragility, with brittleness, with warpage, with weave, or then cracked perforations, and really it's sort of the canary in the coal mine to a print being unprojectable.
Prints that have too much shrinkage are not going to be able to find registration in the projector. They're going to lose themselves on the teeth of the sprockets. They're going to be torn apart. They're going to slide over teeth and get extraordinarily scratched. You may have splices that get stuck in the gate or in the pad shoes that burst apart.
The shrinkage can also be variable. We may have, at the lab, we deal with a lot of foreign release prints for some of the films we work with, and the intertitles may be at a different shrinkage than the image content. So we handle it as though it's, that's the highest shrinkage is the shrinkage of the object.
If we have a lot of splices, that can, especially splices that are back to back, if there's not a lot of space between those splices as it goes through a projector, the projector sometimes doesn't like that. So there are special loops that the film path needs in order for the film to go through smoothly. And if we have too many splices, perhaps we'll lose a loop, or it'll just go off kilter in the path, and obviously we can't have that. But most film prints, especially nitrate film prints, do have splices, so it's really just a matter, it really depends on looking at the print and determining, maybe this will be fine and maybe it's not worth taking the chance.
Lots of tiny work with X-Acto knives and scissors, and making sure that we think through each piece of tape that we place on a film to ensure that it is what will keep the print safe and what will be a long-term solution for the problem in the case of a print where we might project it again.
Nitrate splices can be so thick that they move through the projector like shotgun blasts.
As I'm assessing a print, I'm looking to see how much dirt and grease and oil is on the print. These are things that can present problems in projection. They can appear on the screen and be visually discernible. They can gum up the projector. After projecting a dirty print, you can literally see the layer of dirt and dust in the machine.
Basically, we put each film on the inspection bench and we just start winding through. We always wear cotton gloves to see if, there's a tear or a broken edge. If we are winding through and we come across one of those broken edges, it'll catch on the cotton glove. So we know to stop, we go to look at the damage, and we know, maybe this needs tape and maybe this section needs to be cut out. Maybe it can't be saved. So we just do that for every single reel, and then at the end we have a projectable print, hopefully.
The other thing that we do prior to determining what films will be in the show is we do a nitrate pre-screening. So during the day, we'll take the films that we're considering and we'll show them to the moving image department, and we'll decide, okay, are we going to keep that for this year? Are we going to wait for next year? And that's another part of the process of getting ready.
We have to take more care and caution with these prints than we do with anything else we might exhibit. The chances of failure on these exhibitions is far higher than anything else we normally do. The number of prints that we have to reject is extraordinarily high compared to what you would have to do for any other archival screening. It's really kind of a miracle that we're able to project many of these prints at all.
So the projectors that we use for nitrate projection are the Century projectors. They were original to the theater in 1951, so they would have been projecting nitrate film on these projectors in 1951 when the Dryden Theatre first opened. When these projectors were originally installed, they were a carbon arc light source. We have two dowsers that let the light through the projector. We have the manual dowser. So as soon as our projector has the film rolling and we're waiting to switch to the next reel, the projectionist will open the dowser, the manual dowser, and then electronically we have a second dowser that we activate through here. And that opens a second dowser electronically with this piece of equipment here called a zipper. And then we have a magazine for our feed reel and a magazine for our take-up reel, which include fire rollers. This is what allows us to be able to project nitrate film. If there was an instance of smoke or fire, the fire rollers and the magazines would contain the fire and keep it from spreading. I love the Century projectors because they are very basic. They are gears and oil and belts, and as opposed to our other projectors which have many electronic components, the Centuries do not.
Projectionists usually work as individuals and are comfortable that way. When we do the Nitrate Picture Show, it's absolutely critical that we have a large team up in the booth. We like to operate with a team of 3 people. So we're doing changeover projection. We've got a projectionist on each projector, and then we also have someone who's assisting us in the booth. They're handing us the next reel and taking the finished reel away. They're doing rewinds, they're checking volume, they're answering the phone because we wouldn't dare to stand up from our chair during these projections and go answer the phone.
Well, there's also an element of, having a third person who can be a stand-in if someone needs to step away, or, in the case of an emergency, a third person who can assess the situation and help to address it. Like, for example, if we need to double-check masking or framing or focus or volume or something that might benefit from having a person closer to the screen, the third person is able to step away a little more easily and allow the projectionist to continue to focus on their projector.
This becomes a very collaborative process only at the Nitrate Picture Show. The quality of the presentation on film can sometimes suffer because of the attention that the projectionist is putting on the film itself as opposed to what's on the screen. Occasionally, there can be so much drama happening in the body of the projector that you need someone else in the room to tell you if you need to focus or if you need to change framing or the masking.
The biggest safety precaution in my mind is that you always have a projectionist who will never leave that specific projector. So if something goes wrong at a moment's notice, the projectionist will be able to close the dowser and then stop the projector.
The first thing that we want to do, if we do see that there is a problem in the projector, we want to let everyone else in the room know. There's 2 other projectionists. We immediately close the dowsers, stop the projector, and if we have time, turn up the house lights in the theater. These steel walls cover the port glass windows and prevent anything from spreading out into the theater containing the fire. That's done by this bar. This bar rolls, and these little clips that are hooked onto these little posts here come off, allowing the pulley to drop the steel wall. And on their way out, they're going to pull on this wrench, which will release the pulleys, turn the bar, and drop the steel walls for the port glass windows. Most importantly for nitrate projection is our ventilation system. Each projector has its own vent that helps to draw up the hot air from the projector and keep the temperature as low as possible to prevent damage to the film. The other preventive measure is in this attractive blue tank, a solution mixed with water that comes through these tubes and goes behind the projector and is feeding this fluid behind the gate to help cool the gate area down. This actually does make a big difference, even though it seems like it wouldn't matter. If you forget to turn on the pump to have this fluid go, and you go to take out the metal aperture plate, you will quickly drop it because it will be very hot.
I think our audience is very forgiving of the fact that what we're doing upstairs is a unique situation, and the hustle and the bustle that is going on there is really only part of this high-risk show that we're putting on. This is not something that would happen at any other archival festival I can think of, because I can't think of a festival that has a need for more than one person at the booth at a time.
It's nice to know that if something serious was going to happen, that anything that your teammate says, fire, smoke, I need to stop the show, it's nice to have that level of trust with the person you're working with.
Everything's funny until you actually have a fire. And we do have a rule in the booth where we don't joke about fire. We don't joke about smoke. If anyone says either of these two words, fire or smoke, we're shutting everything down and getting out of the booth as fast as we possibly can. There's a level of seriousness that happens upstairs during the Nitrate Picture Show that does not exist at any other time.
Sort of like you have to get into a certain state before any screening, but especially these screenings. You just have to be calm, you have to be well hydrated, you have to be well rested, the right amount of caffeine.
I think that, the energy in the air is palpable. Having a full house of people who are really excited about the thing that you're doing, it feels really cool to be up in the booth and to be able to feed off of that.
It's nice when it's a full house. When you're projecting, you as a projectionist are more or less aware of that, but the job should be the same whether you're projecting to 1 or 500. The bigger consideration is that print. Just being hyper aware. So that's a lot of listening. It's a lot of looking. That's maybe the bigger challenge, is just being ready, being confident in the work that you've done, and then being ready to react if something happens. There's so much to focus on upstairs that, at least for this festival, I don't even, consider how many people are there.
It's nerve-wracking. Am I allowed to say that? It's nerve-wracking, to say the least. The energy in the booth is always great. Everyone's, just a little bit nervous, I think a little bit on edge, but in a good way, in a way that you should be, in a way that everyone cares about the quality of the show, the safety of the print, and everyone involved. Whenever I go to start any show, I'm a bit nervous. Honestly, whenever I do a changeover, there's a little part of me that is always like, I can't believe that worked. It's just sort of an amazement of the technology of itself that I really love. Whenever I do go to start the show, I always just have to tell myself that I can do this, and I've done this dozens of times now. We are quadruple checking the threading before starting. We are quadruple checking that the loops are the appropriate size. we are quadruple checking everything. As long as you're able to trust yourself and know you know the appropriate steps and you know when to take them and you know not to do anything brash or foolish, those are the sort of tools in your toolkit that are going to take you far when doing a nitrate show.
There's more noise in the booth during a Nitrate Picture Show than at any other time. Unless a projectionist is talking to himself, it's usually very silent up there. In this case, there's so much communication going on, and the sound of these nitrate prints can be louder than any other material that we try to pass through the projector. We've heard in the past people who are sitting in the back row of the theater say, is there any way for the projectionist to be a little quieter inside the booth? And this is the one time where we're actually making a distracting amount of noise, whether it's the film getting through the projector, whether it's the communication that we have going on. What is usually a silent arena all of a sudden becomes this kind of this huddle of teamwork.
So it's not all fun and games up here. We're not kicking back and watching movies and having a good old time. We're focused on safety, a good image, and the best show we can do.
I thought there's no way that we still show movies this way, right? Like, it's just a flip book of film frames. How does that even work? So just going down the path of learning how that works and why it works, and then comparing and contrasting how a digital exhibition works and feels, and just trying to get to the root of how to translate these things is definitely a huge interest. Film exhibition is the last step of preservation, where the audience gets to watch this film and have that experience and internalize that experience. That will conserve a film longer than, well, maybe not longer than, but it's just as important of the film's life cycle to be remembered and to be seen as it is to have the film sitting on a shelf for 1,000 years.
One thing about projection that I believe is true is you never know everything. You're always learning, and you're learning from the other people that are really good at it too. And the minute you feel like you do know everything, you're sure to be in trouble. So I have worked with the most amazing colleagues, and the fact that we're all up there together definitely helps ease that pressure of knowing that there's some really smart people from all over the world watching what you're doing. So we're all in it together.
And it seems as if having done inspection and projection has changed the way that I experience film, because now I look at things like the changeover, and I look for the cue marks, and I look at the masking, and I look at the framing, and I notice when a print is faded or when the focus is soft. So it's really transformed my way of experiencing movies.
I think what the Nitrate Picture Show does by exhibiting these prints that are otherwise never seen, it sheds awareness on the fact that these had to be preserved in order for this to be possible. The only way we can show a print that's 100 years old is because generations before us took such good care preserving it in the first place.
If it's not evident already how much time goes into like selecting, preparing, testing every single object, that's a big part of it. There are a lot of people that spend months on a single object or a single reel. It's crazy. If you lose sight of where you are and what you're doing, and that there's somebody, 100 feet behind you sweating and, quadruple checking, then we're doing our job right, I guess. They call it the showman without applause, because everyone wants, like, that feeling of when you nail it and the show goes perfectly. that's when people are least aware. It's wonderful.
There's no other festival that comes anywhere close to capturing the original cinema experience like the Nitrate Picture Show. There's a level of effort that goes into this festival that is completely unmatched. We take so much time preparing these prints, discussing their viability, going over the program, solving problems that you just cannot predict. We're really putting everything we have into this festival, and I hope it shows.
I would just like to say thank you for coming. It's really great to see such a packed audience at the Nitrate Picture Show. And I would also like to say something that I think the audience already knows, but I guess I want to say thank you for your patience as well, because I know that sometimes when projecting these prints, you know, the focus can go in and out, the volume sometimes is really high on one reel and low on the other. Sometimes you can hear how loud a nitrate print is going through a projector, and you know, the audience just takes it. You know, I appreciate how much the audience appreciates the work that a projectionist does.
I would say to the Nitrate Picture Show audience, thank you for coming far and wide and from just down the street to experience a one-of-a-kind, historic exhibition and stories from times long ago, from films all over the world. And I think that's how it helps bring us together as well, when we hear and see the stories from other countries and from each other, and that expression that through film that we normally don't experience in our day-to-day lives.
I will tell anyone who listens that projectionists are gremlins and mutants that hide in dark rooms. They do their job without anyone being aware of them. They go home late at night after everyone else is gone. They're about as antisocial as they come, and they're unusual creatures, and trying to display their personalities is going to be a challenge. And boy, I don't know how you're going to do this. Sherry, at least, is very hospitable and friendly.
So before I became a projectionist here at the Dryden Theatre, when I used to just come and see movies, my favorite part was one of my favorite parts was watching the curtain go up. And then the greatest moment after becoming a projectionist was I got to be the person who pushed the button that made the curtain go up.